Okay. Hiya. Hello,
Oh,
Helen.
hiya,
Hello.
Beth.
Are you all right?
I am now.
Oh, I know we started just a little bit and then we sort of froze a bit, didn't we? But we've got a cup of tea now and everything's just fine, we hope. So,
Mm.
um, so we're just following our chat, really, aren't we, from last week with this on our spiritual journeys and where we are now. So it was last week we sort of covered my background and the history and how I came to be on the path. And this week we said that we'd have another cup of tea and we'd catch up with your story, really, of where it all started for you, that you realised you were on this path, spirituality, finding out about yourself. So when did it start for you?
I think it was when my children were still quite young. Dad had started to get ill. I was getting itchy feet with my work in the NHS. Just a lot of things seemed to be changing. And some of the things that I think when you look back, so like as a young girl, I'd always been interested in the spacey things. Like there was the programme Space 1999 and Star Trek. I was a bit of a Trekkie as a young girl, and I loved, I remember a book my mum got me because I used to be interested in like the supernatural and things like that. I was always a bit, I suppose people in the family, maybe the weird one, the black sheep of the family. And then it's sort of like that left me, and I ended up going into a profession. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. It was just that I think I used intellect to decipher, well, what can I do? And I always remember there were two things that I could pick out, and it was like, well, I knew I cared, and I knew I liked sport, and that sort of got me to look at physio, and that was fine for many years. I loved it, but then things started to change, and at that point of it starting to change and life becoming harder, I suppose you can always look at those times when you're in it and think, oh, why me? Why does this have to happen to me? And I probably did do at that time. But maybe it was just a way of helping me to recognise what it is that wasn't right for me at that time. I don't know. But anyway, some of the instances I remember were, for example, when I was in my little car, I used to feel this pressure. I was driving and nobody would be in the car with me. And it was almost as if, say, there wasn't anybody in, but it was almost as if there was somebody sat behind me on the back seats and they had their knees up against the back of my car seat. And I could feel this pressure in my back. And then I'd start to smell things like cigarette smoke in the car. It was often in the car. I'd never been anywhere near anybody that smoked or anything like that, but a really strong sense of smoke. And then I could feel heat in places where there was no source of heat, really. So it's just all these different sensations. So that, I suppose at that time I was, you were part of my journey, meeting you. You introduced me to things like angel cards. I'd always been interested in like complementary therapy, but my physio profession was the thing that sort of, we can always feel as though it's that like, well, if it was the job that offered me the security, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
But I was always interested in more alternative or holistic things. And then we met up, didn't we, at the Wellbeing Centre. I was using the Bowen technique.
That's right, yeah.
And in our little chats together, you introduced me to angel cards. I'd never come across angel oracle cards. and then you'd become a Reiki master, hadn't you?
Yeah.
So I became interested in Reiki. And it's funny because that makes me think, when I was training I was learning the Bowen technique, and on one of the lessons that we were having at Huddersfield, it had been talked about, there was just this comment made about distance healing. And the tutor that I had at the time, because he knew of my background, which is like, traditional physical modalities, he sort of winked at me because I was like, what? Distance healing? What the heck's that? Because that thing would never have entered the realm of the medical profession or physio, particularly, so many years ago. So it was, I think, there's that saying, is that you only know what you know until you're introduced to something. Some of these different ways of being can seem a bit woo-woo.
Yes.
And it's not until you start exploring it that you open your mind more to it, because there's quite a lot of closed minds in the medical profession, not just medical, but in the National Health Service. Things are changing.
Yes.
But looking back, I can see that I was gradually being, I suppose, introduced back to what my heart really loved to do. But I'd sort of diverted my path because of the need to survive in this world, as many of us do, don't we?
Yes.
You introduced me to a mediumship circle.
Yeah.
Which I loved. But again, it seemed to be that, like, I was like, well, I think you'll agree with this, it was almost like I was catapulted along this journey of awakening, so to speak.
Yes, you were.
Like, bang, 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 all these different things were happening to me. So I've been to this circle, and at that point, I think Dad had already died, but my mum was becoming very ill as well. And there was a little incident that happened within that circle. And it sort of, I won't sort of go into detail with it, but it was like, at the time, it didn't feel very nice to be put in those circumstances. But looking back, I can see that it was almost like spirit had different ideas. So it's like, right, you've learned what you need to learn.
Yes.
Putting the codes with it, you need to go on your next part of the journey. I'm trying to think what the next part was after.
It's a bit like we sort of covered last week, wasn't it, when we were chatting, and we were saying that each stage, you just go one step at a time, don't you? And like for you, it started, I remember you telling me about these sensations, with you in the car and that. Did it ever, maybe, do you have any idea what that might have been, or who it might have been now that you sort of look back? Or do you just think it was almost somebody nudging you as to wake up, really, at that point?
I think I don't really have any recollection. I think maybe there was a bit like you said before, I didn't realise how I was probably already quite connected.
Yes.
You've said that before, we get to doubt ourselves, don't we?
Yes. Yeah.
We probably lose that curiosity, that essence, that pure essence of ourselves as children, our sensitivity. And we come to doubt ourselves, because particularly if you're living in a family where or you feel that you're the only one.
It was a bit different.
That's right. Yeah, I used to hate my sensitivity. I used to colour up like most, can still do, colour up like mad. I didn't realise that what I was feeling was everybody else's stuff around me. I just wanted to make everything feel right again. If there was things going on with other people that felt quite heavy, it was like I didn't like it. So I think I shut myself off from everybody.
Yeah.
And I think there might have come a point where I was sort of accused of not caring a couple of times.
Right.
And I think that's possibly part of the the reason why I went down a caring profession, because it's like, I'll show them. You know, I don't care. But yeah, so I don't think it was, I didn't have any notion of it was any one person or spirit.
No.
It's a bit like you say, it was like somebody just nudging me. It was time to wake up.
Yes, yeah. Because I think when we go into our professions or whatever, it's a bit like we were saying last week, that how we have that many masks, don't we? And we sort of people pleasing in a way that we don't realize we're doing it, but we become who people think we are, don't we?
Yeah.
And then it's breaking from that mold, because that's how you see yourself as well. But then then that it's hard when things are beginning to wake you up, like the incidents in the car, and then going to the circle and angel cards, and like you said, you do start to doubt yourself, don't you? Or you think, what is actually going on? And that, I think, is that at the point you thought to yourself, well, there's something else. Like I said, there's something else other than what I'm doing or what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah, it was probably around about that time. I don't think, I think what I always had this real interest in the workings of the human body.
Yeah.
It fascinated me. So I suppose there was that aspect of my work, but it was just that it was gradually, that sense of getting itchy feet, that it's no longer fulfilling me. It was becoming a bit of a Groundhog Day. Yes. And I think that's why I ventured into, it was another aspect of National Health Service work that I went into. I suppose it was more of a desk type job, and I made a complete cock up of it. And I actually made myself ill with it.
Oh, right.
Because I wouldn't let go of it. I felt like I had to correct things that I was doing that I knew I wasn't doing right. But I didn't. I tried to make amends, sort of thing. But it was almost like, that saying about digging yourself in a deeper hole.
I think, like you said, when you're on your journey and you try a different thing to carry on with that safety net, isn't it? The security, because, and then it's still, life somehow just still keeps telling you, no, you're not, this isn't right for you anymore, or you don't feel right about it.
Yeah.
So going back to the circles we used to go to, because that was, we didn't go our separate ways, but you led a slightly different path then, wasn't it? From there, was it at that point? What happened from the circle then? Apart from us going to the Molly Moot.
Oh yes, we did.
But going back to that.
I did. Well, one of the things, my mum became much more dependent, so my time was sort of taken to there. And I think I'm trying to think where I did go. Can you remember?
I'm just trying to think, because we were still at the Wellbeing Centre, and we were going to did you get, we've done the Angelic Practitioners course.
We did, the Angelic Reiki,
the Angelic Reiki.
I'd done my level 1 and 2 Usui Reiki with you.
That's it, yes.
And, thank you. That was, I think, what opened up more my awareness of the energy healing. So there's this shift from the physical, the body stuff, to the more energy healing. And it was quite an eye-opener, really, that I could feel, you sort of get taught, don't you, the positions of your hands, the routines that you should go through. But it was, again, it was like, well, actually, that's not how it's feeling for me. My hands are literally being drawn. It's like being pulled to certain areas. So to feel that movement within me was something else, and I didn't really understand it, to be honest.
Yeah.
So I did the Usui, and then we went and did the angelic reiki, didn't we? 1 and 2 together.
Yeah.
And that seemed to, obviously it was just like a general progressive learning about energy healing and the angels.
Yes.
And then where did I go from there? I left the Wellbeing Centre, didn't I? I don't know if I left it at that time. I'm trying to think. Can you think what happened from there?
Did you do, following on from the angelic Reiki course we did you follow on then with studying more with the angels? And
yeah, because I left, I went back to work for a few years after being ill, quite a few years actually. I went back to the safety and the security of the same, but it eventually became, it was like obvious to me. It's like, oh crikey, no, there's something not right. And what I was very, very enthusiastic about, it was like, you know, I've lost my passion. I'd lost my passion for it.
Yeah.
But when it's tied into your income for looking after your family, paying the mortgage and food on the table, it's a really, really hard place to be, isn't it? When you feel that place of being uncomfortable, it's scary.
It's scary. Yeah.
So, that had become very uncomfortable, and fortunately, there came a time a few years ago where I was offered this amazing opportunity that allowed me to leave the NHS. And I sort of, it allowed me to fulfill a dream I'd had, although I'd been working on a private basis for like a day here and there for several years. This allowed me to open up my own practice, like a health, an alternative practice that I had. And whilst that was great, you don't realise the responsibilities and the overheads that go with, you know, looking after a building. So that it went after a few years, and I was so glad I did it, because it's sort of like you get it out of your system, don't you?
Yes.
And that was part of that time when I'd done the angelic Reiki, but then went into looking more deeply at the angels, the archangels. And I found myself eventually doing like an online course, meeting up with other healers, working in the with the energy of Archangel Metatron. So things sort of happened on a personal level that really caused me to look at me, who I was. So that was a very, very challenging time. Because Metatron, it's sort of like it's self-mastery. Looking at yourself, what makes up you. You know, there's the element of your shadow aspect, the parts of you that I've been talking about it this morning, really. You know, when we're young, we're sort of moulded into the perfect child. You know, how we behave, how we act, that kind of things. We never get to look at what's really in our hearts. We never really get to look at those aspects that we dare not look at, or we don't want to look at, you know, jealousy, anger, shame, guilt, all of that stuff. And it's getting you to sort of realise that that's a part of everybody, and trying to integrate the two sides. Become more more whole, really, more unified. So like you said last week, it's like we start out with all these judgments on our back. And eventually over time you can sort of chuck out all these judgments and you feel lighter.
Yes. I think you realise when we I think when we it all come back to being good, and like if you're naughty, then you're awful. But things happen to us as we go through our life, don't they? They're massive challenges sometimes. But it does, and as painful as they are, and I think sometimes if you're on a spiritual path of some sort, and not necessarily, but sometimes if you like we're very similar, aren't we, where we and in fact our background as children were quite similar, weren't they? When we've been chatting, you know, the structure of our family, we both got sisters and older sisters, and mum and, you know, my mum and dad, you know, it was a very close family, but very structured, and most of us have that. And I think you grow up and you don't really know who you are. And I think it's only when things start to happen, and it could be just making a wrong decision with taking on a job, to, you know, something like a parent or a bereavement or something, or a divorce, as it was partly in my case, that you actually start looking at yourself. And as you say, you see the shadow side, and it's incorporating all that, and accepting you for who you are, really, isn't it? And understanding exactly how you do really feel about things, how you do really feel about people or situations, or things you like, things you don't like. And I think it is a journey, and for anyone who is starting along this road, isn't it? You know, you can go 10 steps forward sometimes and 6 back, can't you? Before you sort of get your orienteering map out again, and then just see where the hell you're going. And then sometimes another door opens, or a meeting, or you see a book, or you listen to a YouTube talk, or just something just start you off again then, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. And I think it's like you said last week, it's the realization there's got to be something more. But I think we've always known that there's something more, but it's almost like that gets beaten out of you, doesn't it, through life?
Yes.
I think one of the things for me that I realised, because I've spent quite a bit of time writing, is that one of my survival mechanisms, I suppose, because I found life quite harsh. I know there was an element of me having wrapped up in cotton wool as a child. Was achievement, because I didn't understand my sensitivity. I hated school. I didn't fit in. I didn't make friends easily. You know, I can remember being in the playground and being absolutely petrified, because there's all these children around you seemingly happily getting on with things and playing and mixing, and I was, you know, the one stood at the top thinking, what do I do now? Do I go and enforce myself on a group that's already playing, or do I just wait until somebody comes to me?
You feel a bit lost, don't you? I remember feeling like that at school.
So I think the one thing, so playtime for me was awful, because there's an element of you just being yourself. So whereas I was in the classroom, I thought, right, I can get my head down and I can study. So I've used the recognition of me was that achievement was a survival tactic. So I was able to achieve and get good grades, but it was all parrot fashion learning. You know, if I was to say to anybody who felt bad about not getting the grades and things like that, it's like, well, actually, just because you might get decent grades doesn't mean you're going to be successful in life.
No.
There's so many other aspects to being successful, like confidence and being able to get on with other people. Because I'll always remember we used to have this lesson at middle school. We still had a 3-tier system, and it was called environmental studies. I don't know if it would be called like geography now or whatever. And I'd done well. We were having exams, and I'd done well in my other exams. And then this one particular time, we'd done one paper of it, and I remember it was the only time I was sat there unable to write much. And the teacher, we were due to start, and this teacher knelt down at my table and said, just relax, just, just try and think calmly. And what it was, I'd obviously done really, really bad in that first paper. And it was because it wasn't something I could revise for. I had to use my common sense.
Yeah.
But I can't use maps now.
No, me. I'm hopeless with anything like that. Don't give me a map or anything. No.
I did. There were 2 papers there, and it just spoke volumes that a lot of how I achieved at school was just going over and over and over things until it was like a rehearsal.
Yes.
So that was achievement. And then again, probably, physio, it was like the label. It's like, I've got my uniform now.
Yeah.
But take that away, who am I? I think that's the root of a lot of it. We've all got, like you say, these masks, which might be like a uniform. But you take off the uniform, it's like, who am I without all that learned knowledge,
It's like, I think, Anne, I hope you won't mind me saying this, but I've said it to you loads of times, because when we worked in the Wellbeing Centre, it used to be quite cold, didn't it, unless we were in our room where we had the heating on. And Helen always had a fleece, didn't you? You always had your fleece on because it was cold or whatever, and you usually have it right zipped up. And I always remember the first noticeable thing that I noticed as you were going along the journey, and with all the ups and downs of that journey, I can safely say now, figuratively, you've completely discarded the fleece. It's as if the fleece was like your protection.
Armour. It was my armour.
Exactly. Yeah. And now you're so more open and relaxed around people, because that was quite a big thing, wasn't it?
Well, it was like because I was scared. I was one of the worst, when I was a lot younger, I was one of the worst more socially awkward people you could ever I cringe when I think back to myself. I know, because when you're at work, you've got your role, you've got your set procedures, and I was like happy there, but then come to going out, it was awful, because the underlying fear was that, oh God, nobody's going to like me. So it was very much my armour, and it was about bringing with me all the wounds from like the inner child and stuff with me, and I just again not understanding my sensitivity. So it's like, now I've done all that work on myself, I'm not saying I'm anywhere near perfect, but I can laugh at myself more, and I've got much more what's the word, compassion for little Helen.
The little Helen, the little that inner child, the inner child, because that's where it all starts, isn't it? And anyone who's done inner child work is quite interesting, I've only done a bit of it, but I myself had Samara Reader last year or the year before, and a part of that journey was like inner child. But you took great comfort from writing a journal, didn't you? That then you started to write a book. I don't know if you're still writing that book or if you're having a break from it or what. So that you found journaling helped you a lot, didn't you? To
Yeah, I did, because I'd never really understood journaling. I always describe it as thinking of it as like the Dear Diary kind of thing. Well, it's like, I didn't see much sense in it. I didn't see the potential depth to it. But then somebody introduced me to a book by Julia Cameron, The Artist's Way. Oh, and the other one was, which is something I might talk about next time, about a book by Janet Connor, Writing Down Your Soul. And that's about looking at journaling from a different point of view and the depth of healing that can come from it, but doing it in a certain way, and not just today I did A, B and C. Maybe a certain technique that you can use that can help you dig a bit deeper and find answers for yourself. So yeah, writing's been really helpful because it doesn't cost you anything, and you don't have to make an appointment with a therapist. Your therapist's in front of you on the book and the pages and your pen. So yeah, I've not touched the book for ages because that came to a bit of a full stop, but I'm feeling drawn to come back to that again because it's like, again, stages that we go through, your understanding of things. About what your story really is, or has been. So yeah.
So what was that book about, writing, in case anybody's interested in it? About writing it.
Yeah, it's called. I don't know if I've got it here. Just
I'll make a note of that as well.
It's by Janet Connor, and it's CONNER.
Yeah.
And it's called Writing Down Your Soul. And it's something about hearing the extraordinary voice within.
Right.
And that lady's journey is about her, I suppose it was her awakening really, where she went through a real trial with a husband who became quite abusive.
Right.
She was living in fear of her life basically, and she started to journal, and that was the thing that she realised she was hearing. She was getting messages from somebody, you know, and that's marked her journey to journaling and being able to tap into probably her higher self, to receive guidance.
Because that's coming back to that nicely now into your channeling, because you have channeled quite a bit, haven't you? And you channel for people. That is what part of what you offer now, isn't it? Along with your physio, your healing energy work. So tell us about that, Helen, where you are with that.
Well, I suppose the channeling, I didn't realise I was doing it. That comes back to the time of the circle, the mediumship circle that we did. I ended up writing a letter to the lady that led the circle. And it was just like, you know, this knowing that comes across of you don't understand it maybe, but it was just this very deep-seated feeling. The only way I could describe it was this sense that there was going to be this second coming, you know, like Jesus. But when I look back, it's, you know, it's the Christ consciousness coming back globally. And I just felt compelled to write to her about this. And within that letter, I didn't recognise it at the time, but she'd said to me, were you connected to spirit when you were writing it? And it just sparked off, and I'm thinking, oh, maybe I was. And it was just that level of relaxation that you get when you're writing or when you're doing something. I suppose like when people get it when they're being creative in any shape or form. that there was a natural message that wanted to come through on
Yes.
that letter.
Yes.
So that sort of led me on to journaling, but writing. And I then started to channel lots of different messages for myself for quite a
Yes.
long time. And
Yeah.
then I started to offer people written channeled messages.
Yeah.
And that's where it all started from. So I haven't done much channeling just lately, but I do offer people channeling, or I'll use oracle cards as the starter mark, and then I'll bring in a channeled message.
Right. Yeah.
Because we can all channel. We all channel, because
Yes.
you'll get messages brought to you by spirit from other people. They'll say something to you, and you'll think, that came from somewhere else. There was a different energy in those words. So people that think that they don't channel, or there are those people that sort of poo-poo it in a way.
Yeah.
It's nonsense. It comes through us all. It's just learning. It's just becoming aware of it and tuning into it more.
I know, and I think we both, and funnily enough, I'm getting them again. And I was telling you about it the other week when we were chatting, and the same with you. It would numbers. I get numbers, and you used to see it on car registrations, didn't you? That was your specific way of a message of some sort to read. And for me, it's always when I look at the clock, I just knew, all right, wait, it was always a time for me, as in I could be dreaming a time and it would be, say, 4:18 on a clock. But you wake up and know that means something. And I'll just say, in case anybody does get these, or they're having repetitive numbers, I looked up a lady on Facebook called Angel Numbers, Joanna Scribes. And that's who I go to. She's my go-to even now, because I know there's others out there as well, but she's quite straightforward and is quite structured messages. And you can just go on and look up the number, and then you'll get the reading of the number. So for you, it was when you started noticing car numbers, didn't you? Were they? Yeah, that was that at the beginning when you were feeling the pressure in the car?
I think
or was it a bit later?
It was later. It was car registration numbers. It was like, I'd walk into the kitchen, and the time, on my washing machine, there's a display, and it tells you how much time you've got left for the cycle to end. Well, it's like 111, or it's 111 on the oven thing. And then it seemed to change. Well, like you, on my phone, it's 1212.
Yes.
2121. So it's almost like it's probably that those numbers and those signs, it's a bit like us going on the shamanic path over the last 2 or 3 years.
Yes.
You can either look at a robin and think it's just a robin. It would have been there anyway. But actually, if you look at it on a different level, from a different perspective, what messages is spirit sending you? What's the energy, the medicine that animal or that creature's bringing you? Say, like, for instance, you might start noticing, when you're out and about, there was one stage that everything seemed to have a swan in it. So in a picture, there was a swan, or there'd be a statue of a swan somewhere, or a ghost somewhere, and there was an actual swan. It's becoming, you wake up to what actually is. You see things from a different perspective. So this is the beauty of it, that rather than it's just a swan, or it's just a car number plate that would have been there anyway, well, that is. But there might be another energy behind that that's trying to get something across to you.
I think that's it, and I think it's when you start noticing things like that, there's something inside thinking to, oh my goodness, why have I seen that number 418 or 425, or once I remember dreaming of a bus with a number on, and like I woke up and I thought, I'm gonna have to, I hope I remember that number when I wake up, when I get up, because I'm gonna have to look that up. And you do start to notice, so for anyone who is sort of just starting to open up, like these are little, they're not coincidences, they are coincidences, synchronicities, I think.
Yeah.
I'm trying to say, they're synchronicities, aren't they?
Yeah.
And for each stage that you're going, then just follow it, just follow it.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think one of the trickiest places is to start, that it's that stage that you get to in life, a bit like me, where it's a bit scary and unnerving in that what you were used to, what you felt comfortable with, that when that starts to change, but everybody else seems to be in the same place as you were.
That's it.
Where do you go? You might keep it to yourself. You might keep quiet about it. To start and see things differently, or be interested in other things.
Yes.
People can be quite judgmental of you, or make fun of you, and things like that.
Yes.
So it's so important to, if you find that person where you feel that you can open up to them about it, such as like listening to this, that you're not going mad, and it's not woo-woo,
No.
that kind of thing. It's so important to have somewhere to go, somebody to talk to about it.
And I think that was one reason that we decided to start these, didn't we? Chats, because some people I know are, starting out on journeys, or not understanding why something was so comfortable for them for the last 15, 20 years just is not sitting right with them. It could be anything. And like you do your channeling, and you've started the Red Tent, which I've joined once a month, and that's quite a lovely group, really, isn't it? I mean, we've only had the one that you've done. So that's it'd be nice to see how that evolves, because there's a nice group of women, obviously. It is all women, and that would be perhaps, because that's free, isn't it, Helen? If you offer the Red Tent.
Yes. It's like a national movement once a month, and people run their own in different areas, and it just evolves depending on the people within each Red Tent, and it's just for women to sort of take off the roles that they have during the day, the many roles, and to be able to just simply be, really,
Yes, and I think that is good, because especially for us women, because we mothers, we care home, home owners, we care for the home. We have various jobs, and some may be still working along with running their family, or some may be on their own. It's a nice space. So it will, I think it'll be a nice space. And sometimes there's no pressure to speak or anything. You can just sit and enjoy people's interaction, can't you? It's a nice space. So have you got so we've covered your journaling, and you're writing your book, and the angelic practitioner and Reiki course that we did. Would you ever go back to do your masters in that?
I might do. I haven't done it. I suppose I think the only thing I've been feeling as to why I would do it is that because of the attunements, maybe.
Yeah.
I've learned an awful lot of my own learning from different avenues about, different chakras, that kind of thing. But the one thing that's come through naturally for me is, the healing that I bring through, which I hadn't understood for a long time, and it came from when I was. This is a shout out for a very powerful healer, Sharon Brown. If anybody wants to look up Sharon Brown, Living Uniquely You, she's on Facebook. But when she was helping me, it came about that I realised that I sense movement in my body that reflects energies, sort of lower, denser energies in other people, which is basically trapped emotions and that creates trauma that needs clearing.
Yeah.
So this is where the distance healing comes in, that I will, it's a bit like a medicine dance, I suppose, and that even though somebody's maybe on the other side of the world, when we connect online, I can do these movements because I've got these healing guides that work through me, and I can help to clear. It's the guides that work through me. They're doing the work. They're like the bridge, really. That I can clear energies from people that might be creating things such as painful necks, shoulders, backs and hips and that kind of thing. But it's also on an ancestral level, and things such as grief as well that might be creating lung issues. So I suppose it's sort of my healing work has moved on to that more than just a one-to-one. Although I do one-to-one, I can do work on a group basis. It's very much like yourself with your nidra, your yoga.
Yeah. It's I think sort of, but your journey was shorter than mine, I think, because mine seemed to stretch out. But your journey have sort of been quicker than mine, and that's how I feel people will be feeling, that their journey is quicker, that they get into the various stages of the journey quicker than
and that can feel really unsettling, can't it? And I think it's the same from what I've learned from teachers like Tim Wilde. It's just a reflection of the quickening of time, the energies that are changing on the earth, that the frequency is rising, and that we're coming away from this fear-based way of living. Working and living more from the heart, which we haven't really been allowed to do, have we, for centuries, really. So if people are feeling it's like being in the center of a washing machine on a spin dry, it can feel really hectic, and it's like, oh God, what's happening? But just to reassure you that it's not just you're not the one that's going mad. It's just because you're being drawn to let go of certain ways of being and thinking and behaving to live a lighter life and a much more loving and natural way of life.
And I think as well a happier life, because whatever you've got, I mean, nobody's life is a bed of roses. There's always challenges or things along the way. That's life. That's what happens. But I think you're happier with yourself, and you're sort of more settled, and you have more like a not a focus. It's like a faith, really, that keeps you, going, and helps you to deal with your challenges. Maybe completely different to what you dealt or may have dealt with them 10, 15 years ago. It's
things more balanced. isn't it? Bring more balance into your life. It's about getting to know yourself better and to let go of control to a certain extent, you know.
I think that's a really good point, because we do try as human beings to control everything instead of just flowing, really, and just flowing. We, you know, and it comes back to all sorts of like prophets and proverbs, and like you can only live in the moment, because from when we started this interview and this chat, this cuppa, that's gone now. That the start of that has gone. We're not going to recapture that. And like, we don't know when I finished. I don't know what I'm going to do. Can't, you know, there's no plans as such. So, and I think when you just accept and just don't control things or try to control and look at, I think it's looking at things a different way as well. Is, you know, instead of reacting maybe to a situation, or you just take that few minutes and look back, or look forward at what's going on, and then you can get a better picture of it, really, can't you?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, it's like, you know, if you've seen something that's going on as bad or all doom and gloom, if you were to look from a different perspective, is there an aspect of that might actually lead to something really good? You know, the butterfly doesn't become a butterfly until it's gone through its cocoon stage of,
that's right,
you know, it wiggles its way out. So, and that's in the darkness, isn't it?
Yes. It's I'm just trying to think. Is there anything else you'd want to add, Helen? I don't know how long we've been on. Have we been about an hour?
Probably an hour.
Oh, right.
No, I'm not really sure. I forgot to time it after my computer crashed before.
So,
I don't know. It's just that I suppose, I think for me, one of the greatest things was to have you alongside me.
Yes, it's having somebody you can trust and a friend who understands, one, of just being there, and two, they become your guide, don't they, for a while, or mentor, and then, but it's not like a control thing. It's just we've gone on some things and joined in some things, and we both like had a good laugh and thought, what the heck, I don't think this is us. I mean, we've sort of but I think when you've got, if you can find, yes, it's having somebody just being there sometimes and listening, and this is partly of what we wanted to offer, like as in recommending books we've read, or maybe the odd Facebook group, you know, that we've joined, and we can, you know, that may sometimes you can join a group and it takes you so far, and then you think, no, I've learned what I want to learn, or you've taken it, you've taken from it what you actually need. But somewhere then you do find something else opens, or somebody else floats into your life for a while.
I think from what you've just said then as well, Beth, it comes to mind about, you know, don't get too attached.
No.
When you said about go with the flow as well, you know, when we attach to something, there could come a time where you're feeling as though, I'm losing a bit of interest in that, and don't be frightened of that. Just park it. Maybe it might be something you come back to.
Yes.
Play with life a little bit if you can, or experiment, or be a bit more inquisitive or curious about things, and don't be frightened of it. But it really does help if you've got, it's always nice, it's a bit like when women go out, they always want to go to the toilet together, don't they? I don't know why I thought about, but it's just that companionship, isn't it?
Sometimes it could be maybe just through these chats, you know, that people feel a connection, and You know, that they feel that there's somewhere that they are supported, you know, and yeah, it's like we're quite accessible to everyone, and we're quite ordinary housewives and teachers and whatever, and mums, aren't we? We just go along our path and just help anyone who really could do with some help, really, along the way, or encouragement.
That's
I don't mean, it's just encouragement, isn't it? And confidence, giving somebody a bit of confidence to follow their heart and not worry. And like you said, don't get too attached and caught up. Always keep open-minded about everything. Investigate.
So I think, you know, if anybody wants to comment underneath, you know, we're posting this on YouTube and one or two other platforms. We might, you know, we're not specialists in any, we might have a particular more interested in one area than another, but if there's anything that you might be interested or you want to know more about, we might not have the answer, but we might know somebody who will have the answer for you, so we can, you know, point you in the right direction, really.
That's right. And we'd like, if people are enjoying the chats, because this will be one of many, and now that we've introduced ourselves and everybody's got a basic idea of where we're coming from, then it'll be nice, you know, for your comments. And as Helen said, if we've said anything or recommended something, if they're not sure or just want to ask for anything, we can help them out or point them in the right direction, really. So would you say that was it for today?
I think maybe so. Yeah, I'm sure we've got loads more to chat about on another time. But I think that's it for now. Thank you.
No, thank you. The thing is, perhaps the next time we'll cover a topic or something like that or whatever, but we don't tend to plan these, do we, Helen? They just sort of, we'll go with the flow.
We will.
Oh, that's been lovely. I've really enjoyed it. Yes,
I have as well, and it doesn't seem like an hour. It might.
Not sure what it.
No.
I think it's about an hour, because we just under an hour, I think.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Yeah, but it's thereabouts.
Okay, right. That's lovely. Thank you, Bethan, for asking me those questions.
You're all right. It's been lovely. Enjoyed it.
Yeah, and thank you to anybody watching. And like we say, feel free to nicely comment underneath. Nicely comment, yes, please. All right, take care, everybody. See you later.